current state of the news and the media makes it very easy to get sucked into a bunch of negative thought patterns and cycles. This is especially true when it comes to things like the housing market, especially the Bay Area housing market, which is what I specialize in. And in today's video, we're gonna do a deep dive on the data and look at just how bad things have gotten over the last 5 years. Or have they? Coming up on this Silicon Valley Snapshot. If you've been watching my videos for any period of time, you'll know that there are so many different ways to analyze and assess the market. And today we're going to be going into some different data points here in the Bay Area that we haven't really gone through or gone over in quite some time. And it's important to really look at some of these different data points, such as absorption rate, sales price to list price ratio, because these are data points that give us a lot of insight as to how healthy the market is, especially when we have trailing information, when we have historical data. We can compare what we are experiencing in today's market and judge it based on how things were, say, 5 years ago when the market was thriving and things were really good, especially for home sellers. Not so great for home buyers. We can assess it, we can analyze it, and kind of compare, contrast, and really come to some actual educated decision making, as opposed to just living in fear and living in some sort of hypothetical world, which unfortunately, that's kind of the world that we live in right now. It's a lot of hypotheticals, a lot of conjecture, a lot of fear mongering, and that's not a healthy frame of mind to make any sort of decision, especially when it comes to the largest financial decision potentially that you might ever make. And maybe here in the Bay Area, there are larger purchases or things that you'll do later on in life that are a little bit larger than the home that you're purchasing, but I digress. This is one of the larger financial decisions that you will ever make in your life, and making decisions without the best information possible and without the most information possible is simply no way to make a decision at all. So we're going to get into that data, but before we get into the data, before we get into the numbers, if you are a home buyer in today's marketplace and you're looking for a comprehensive data set to assist you in your home buying decision making, you can text the word data plus the area, the neighborhood, the city, the zip code that you're looking in, and we will get that data sent straight to your inbox so that you can have a full-fledged data report, just like we're sharing today. All the metrics that we're going over today, but specific to the area that you're looking in to help you make the most educated buying decision possible. And if you're a home seller in today's marketplace and you're looking for a comprehensive data set to assist you in your decision making, should you be selling your home right now? Should you be waiting till the springtime? What could we expect the home to list for, to sell for in the springtime versus now? These are questions that will get answered when you text the word data plus your property address to the number down below. What's interesting is that there is no denial that the market is not nearly as strong as it was a couple of years ago. But that being said, when we really start to dig into some of this data, when we really start to dig into some of these numbers, we can draw some conclusions that allow us to kind of figure out, number one, how much worse is it right now? And is it really that much worse for the best houses? Because again, looking at it from the seller side of things, if I've got a great home in a great neighborhood, how much worse off am I right now than I was maybe 3 years ago in terms of just leverage in the overall marketplace? And if I'm a buyer, what kind of homes are going to be the ones that I have the highest likelihood of getting a great deal on? Because of course, every buyer is coming into the market right now thinking they might be getting a great deal. The truth is every buyer is looking for the same exact house. And so we're still seeing a lot of homes getting multiple offers, 5, 10 offers on a single house. And these are homes that everyone wants. And so again, the best home on the best street with the best schools and the shiny gold toilets are still getting bid up like crazy. But it's really interesting to see kind of this dichotomy between reality and what the media is reporting, what we are all assuming is happening in the market. Because even, myself, some of the data did not corroborate or is not corroborating kind of the overall sentiment of the market right now. And so it's really fascinating diving into this data. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So first of all, we're going to start with Santa Clara County. This might be a long video, everyone, so buckle up, get your glasses out, and start nerding out with me, because this is going to be a lot of fun. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over absorption rate here in Santa Clara County. Now, what is absorption rate? Absorption rate is how much of the inventory in the market is being absorbed by the marketplace any given month. And so the way that we measure absorption rate is either through pending sales or closed sales. The way that I like to look at absorption rate is actually through pending sales, because it gives us a more accurate representation of real-time data, like real-time activity in the marketplace. Sales activity, when a home closes, that's more trailing data, right? So we look at leading versus lagging data. And I like to look at the leading data. It gives us just a little bit more like real-time information. And so when we look at the pending absorption rate here in Santa Clara County versus sales. So the way that you measure it is pending divided by inventory. And so let's just say that you have 100 homes pending and 100 homes on the market that month, then 100 divided by 100 is 100%, right? So if we were to say 80 over 100, right? 80 pending and 100 listed on the market active, then that is an 80% absorption rate. So let's look at this data right here. This is the current absorption rate trends in Santa Clara County. This is across the entire residential space. So condos, townhomes, single families are all included in this. We're looking at July. We have about an 84% absorption rate in the market right now. And at its peak in the springtime, we had 145% absorption rate. So you notice here in Santa Clara County, we're kind of hovering in that like high, 70s, 80s. That's like the low range. And then the higher range is kind of in like that 130, 140 range in terms of absorption rate. And so when we look at the market pre-rate hike, okay, so this would be mid-2021 through mid-2022. So let's look at the absorption rates in mid-2021. We see 160, 154, 119, 139. This is in May, June, July, August, right? And then we have this massive run up in absorption rate before the rate hike. At its peak, right? At its peak in December of 2021, 285% absorption rate. That is absolutely absurd. Just for context, anything above a 33% absorption rate is technically considered a seller's market. So we were hundreds of percentage points above that. And then in March of 2022, a 233% absorption rate before we started to see things tail off after the rate hike in that late spring market. So a couple of observations here, right? First of all, absorption rate is a great way to measure the health of the market. And obviously, when we are looking at this graph, we're seeing, hey, the market started to become a lot less healthy after the rate hike. When we compare it right now to current day, though, we're seeing some similar trends, right? Absorption rate kind of spikes in the springtime and then comes down during the summertime. So first thing, seasonality, these are things that are normal in the market. And so do we expect maybe a little bit of a rebound into the fall? I would say so, and I think that if we look at the current absorption rate, I would say that like we might even see it creep back into the hundreds before the end of the year and start to taper off in December. December is not normally the peak of absorption rate, by the way. That was an anomaly in 2021, probably fueled by the incredibly low interest rates that we had at that time. But nevertheless, when we look at the absorption rate right now in 2024, we're definitely in a healthier market than we were after the rate hike in 2022. So in terms of just comparing the health of the market right now in Santa Clara County versus after the rate hike in 2022, we're definitely in a little bit of a healthier market right now in 2024. Now, looking at the trailing 4 years, this is another absorption rate chart that I pulled up, and I can't get numbers when we go this far back, but we can just look at the overall trends, right? Before the rate hike in 2022, we had substantially higher absorption rates in Santa Clara County for the 2 years before those rate hikes. And then since the rate hike, we've definitely had lower absorption rates. So the first thing, and this is obvious, right? This is going to be like common knowledge. The market after the rate hike has been impacted here in Santa Clara County. That is something that we absolutely know. And it's been impacted in a variety of different ways. Now, there are some people out there that are like doom and gloom and say, oh my gosh, the market's crashing and all these things. Well, not so fast, because there's another data point that we should be looking at, and that is sales price to list price ratio. And so one of the things that we want to really consider, right, when we're talking about the health of the market is not only how much of the inventory is getting absorbed, but of the inventory that's being absorbed, what is the price integrity in the market at that point in time? So looking at 2021, we're seeing, in December of 2021, when we had that apex of absorption rate, we were looking at 108% list price to sales price ratio. And of course, in the springtime, we saw a run up in sales price to list price ratio. And this is simply, if a home sells for 1.1 million and it was originally listed for $1 million, that is a 110% sales price to list price, right? And so, in a seller's market, we're used to seeing homes sell, well over list price. Well, it would only stand to reason then that, since the rate hike and over the last couple of years that we've seen a massive dip, right? Of course, we've seen a massive dip in sales price to list price ratio, right? Wrong. Look here. In the spring of this year in Santa Clara County, 105, 107, 108% sales price to list price ratio, 106, 105. And then most recently here in July, 103. So even though the absorption rates have come down, of the inventory that is being absorbed, we're still seeing price integrity in the marketplace here in Santa Clara County. And this extends out, not just in Santa Clara County, but across the Bay Area. Let's look at Contra Costa and Alameda County. The graph that you're seeing right here is for the entire East Bay, Contra Costa County and Alameda County combined. And what we see here is not as healthy of a market really as Santa Clara County, but this should not be a surprise to anyone that's been watching my videos for a significant period of time, because you'll know that the East Bay has been struggling a little bit more since those rate hikes. And, even pre-rate hike, I was preaching really on this channel for many, many years that in terms of volatility, the East Bay is a lot more volatile. And when times are good, things are going to go really well in the East Bay. When times are not so great, the homes tend to lose their value more, and it tends to be harder to sell in the East Bay in worse times, so to speak, just because of the geography of the Bay Area. It's more people find it convenient to live really in Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, because that's really where most of the employers are, versus the East Bay, where a lot of people have to commute into work. And so, these are things to consider when obviously buying and selling. But I digress. Looking at this chart right now, you'll see, market is healthy-ish, right? We're still seeing absorption rates above what we normally consider a seller's market. And then looking at the absorption rates when the rate hikes hit in 2022, you'll see that in July of 2022, we had an absorption rate of 54.3, and in July of 2024, absorption rate of 58. So we are seeing roughly similar absorption rates right now in the East Bay as we did right after the rate hike. And, this shouldn't be a revelation, or this shouldn't be like revolutionary information to anyone. And when we look at the trailing 4 years, it should be no surprise that the absorption rates were astronomically higher in the East Bay before the rate hikes in 2022. This is not front page news. This isn't going to shock anyone. And that's why I'm kind of glossing over it right now, because there is a point, there is a punchline. Now let's look at the sales price to list price ratio in 2022. Obviously, after the rate hike, we see a fairly significant decrease in absorption rate, about a 10-point drop over 2 months from May to June and July then of 2022 in the sales price to list price ratio. Now, looking at 2024 though, we're still seeing really healthy sales price to list price ratios. 103, 104, 106, 107% earlier this year. And so we haven't seen really, even in 2023, you go back all of last year, you'll see 104, 105, 104, 103, 104, 103. What this means is that on average, in both the East Bay and in Santa Clara County, on average, home buyers are having to pay fairly significantly over list price in order to compete and win. And of course, this is all of the homes, condos, townhomes, single families. What do you think of the three performs the best? Obviously, if you watched last week's video, you'll know that single family homes are going to be even higher. So, bump that percentage up even more if you're talking single family homes. And if you're looking at condos or townhomes, maybe bring it down a couple of points. But you understand what the punchline is here, which is it's actually more competitive than people give this housing market credit for right now. Still, to this day, this housing market is still more competitive than a lot of people imagine when they get into this market. Now, there's not enough time for me to really speculate and give you a million reasons as to why this is, but the numbers don't lie. Right now, in the Bay Area, it is still a competitive market. Now, is it the market that we knew before? Absolutely not. And so here's what we have to understand is that this market feels a lot more buyer friendly, but it is not a buyer's market. And there's a big distinction between the two. It is more buyer friendly. There's more opportunities for buyers. Number one, right? There's more inventory. Number two, sellers are more flexible, right? So there's more negotiating leverage on the buy side than before, right? So as a buyer, you have more negotiating power, more leverage against the seller more often than not than you did maybe 2 years ago before the rate hike. So these are all things that make it more buyer friendly, a more buyer friendly buying environment, but it does not make it a buyer's market. A buyer's market is when sales price to list price ratio is well below 100 and sellers are begging for buyers to come and see their house. That is not the case right now. We're still seeing multiple offers and we're still seeing homes sell well above list price on average. And so as a buyer, it's really important, really important to understand what this data looks like in the exact area that you're looking in. This is different whether you're looking in San Jose versus Walnut Creek, versus Oakland, Fremont, versus Palo Alto versus Menlo Park. And so all of those areas have different sales price to list price ratios, different absorption rates, different expectations. And so that's why I invite you to order your custom data report for free by texting data plus the area, the zip code, the city that you're looking in to the number down below, and I will get that custom data report sent straight to your inbox. And that's why if you are a home seller, while it is definitely a more buyer-friendly time to be buying, not every seller is in a position of weakness right now. And so, if you've had thoughts of selling and you think, man, now's not the time for me to sell, in a lot of cases that might be true, but in some cases that might not be true. And so that's why it's important to have a customized data report for your area. So I would invite you again to text the word data plus your property address to the number down below to get a custom report and see what the actual data says for your specific area and make your decision based off of information and facts versus the fear-mongering media, the fear-mongering noise that you hear on your local news station. This data is the exact kind of information that you need to really make an educated decision for yourself, whether you're a buyer or you're a seller. And if you've made it this far in the video and you're not yet subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to get notified every single time we post a new Bay Area housing market report like this one to this channel. That's it for this video, everyone. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, this is Danny Gould, everyone. I'm selling Silicon Valley, and I will catch all of you in the next video.